Hello, Fiona.
Hello, tea.
How are you
Except it's
today?
not tea today.
No, well, it's still tea, but it's with coffee.
Exactly, yes. Today is not a cuppa conversation, it's a coffee break.
So, what are we going to be doing in these coffee breaks?
In these coffee breaks, one of us has thought of questions to ask the other, and the person answering the questions has no idea what the questions are going to be about.
And they're extra caffeinated as well, so who knows what might come out.
Exactly. I know, and we may not sleep tonight.
Okie dokie. So, you're going to kick off the coffee break asking me questions. So, I'm
Exactly,
feeling
yes.
rather nervous about what might come out.
Yeah, you'll be great. Don't worry. That's what. Sorry, I've been teaching all day. It's constantly, don't worry, you'll be fine. Don't worry, it's fine. Oh, you can make mistakes.
All right, I need that reassurance as well.
Well, you're not going to make mistakes because you know your stuff.
Okay.
So, and obviously, I've thought of questions that, well, they're in your ballpark. So, you ready?
I am, I think. Yep.
Right, it's all pretty much on one theme. In our book, Teaching Teens, you took charge of the reflection section, section C. The book's in three sections, so there's the sort of theoretical brain part, which was my section, then we both did the activities in section B, and you took charge of section C, which is about reflection. So my first question is, how effective do you think reflective practice is for learners?
Ooh, for learners, that's a good
Mm.
question.
To
Um,
reflect on their own learning?
yeah. Well, I think it's really important because it helps them to engage more deeply with what they're learning. So even if it's just, 5 minutes at the end of the lesson, what was your favorite word from today? Or which phrase do you want to try and use this week or things like that. And it's interesting because I'm a dip TESOL tutor as well, and it's one of the criteria when people are being assessed. And unfortunately as well, it's the last criteria in the lesson delivery that learners are encouraged to reflect on and review their learning. And so often I feel like I'm not quite passing people on it because they get to the end of the
Yes.
lesson and suddenly it's finished and there hasn't been any sort of reflection. That's not to say that it only happens at the end of the lesson. I think even after you do an activity, getting the students just for 30 seconds to kind of go through their answers again and think about what they did well, where they made mistakes, and kind of why they might have made their mistakes. Not in a kind of whole class, what did you do wrong and why? But just 30 seconds. Just look at your answers, take a second. Okay, next activity. Mhm.
And you just mentioned it yourself. How would you distinguish then between sometimes reflecting and reviewing? Because if you're saying to students, what was your favorite word today? Or how many words can you remember for today? Or how do you feel you did today? If you were asking those questions at the beginning of the next class, that would almost be labeled reviewing. And not
Yeah.
just almost. In fact, I think generally speaking, that would be labeled reviewing. So how would you differentiate between reflecting and reviewing? Because they're not the same.
No, I mean, I guess reviewing would be perhaps more quantitative, maybe kind of how many words can you remember from today? Like, or say you've done a vocabulary lesson and 10 new words have come up. Okay, books closed at the end of the lesson. How many of those can you remember? And then that kind of which is your favorite, or which one did you find particularly interesting, or which one was new for you, or which one do you particularly relate to? That might be perhaps more of a reflective question. I might throw that back to you. What would you consider to be the
And
difference?
I was just thinking about it. I think for me, and it's really just listening to you now, um, for me, reviewing is about the content, the language, the stuff that we've done in a class, and reflecting is about the student, the learner.
Hmm.
So one's more look inside yourself. That sounds a bit hippie, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's more about um, forming an association, an attachment almost, the semantic element, the deciding on what's relevant for me,
Hmm.
and that's where the language is about me, or the learning is becoming my learning rather than this is what we did in the class,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
feels almost it's more like some um what's the word? Not negotiation, but some thing that happened between the teacher and the student rather than within the student. So I think perhaps it's that. One's more about this is what we did outside of, tick, 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 how much do
Yeah.
the typical smiley faces at the end of the book, which get called reflection sometimes. I don't think that's true.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't think, the I can. It's not true reflection. It's more, oh, how many words can I remember in that sense, which is more ticking the boxes. Whereas
Hmm.
the reflective activities, especially like the stuff that you put in a book, it's got a lot more to do with, like you say, favorite. That's more like personalizing. It's
Yeah. And you used an interesting word there as well, making it meaningful.
mm,
So that kind of it is another way that the learners internalize the language much more. And I think that's a way that it can come in at different stages of the lesson, not just at the end, but even things like when you show learners a text and kind of get them to think, how is this person similar or different to you?
yeah,
Even that's a kind of a reflection on
it is,
this
yeah,
is the language that this person uses to describe their experience. Which of that
yeah,
is relevant to me, or how would I tweak it to make it relevant to me?
yeah. And in terms of learning, cognitive function and all that, their reflection and review would be different as well. Anyway, one would be kind of declarative memory stuff, whereas the reflection is part of the cognitive. I'm trying to remember if it's the hippocampus or the prefrontal, but the prefrontal cortex. That's just me being a bit. um, Part of the memory process
Hmm.
is sorting out semantics and deciding which stuff is relevant to us, and therefore we're going to keep it in our memory. And I
Hmm.
think you need the reflective stage for that to happen. Whereas the review isn't that at all. It's about performance. It's can you remember the 10 things we did today? Woohoo,
Hmm.
I remember the 10. Whoa, dopamine kick. Now I'm going to forget them because the teacher's not going to ask me again. So yeah. Next question.
Dun, dun, dun.
What about reflection for teachers? How important is it for teachers to reflect on their individual lessons, but also perhaps on their career progress, perhaps not the
Yeah,
word, but their overall, their methodology, their approach, their own teaching practice.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is probably something that we all do implicitly. Um, Rarely do we leave the classroom and just kind of switch off. And as much as many of us would love to, but and it does tend to be often, the how could I have done that better? Why didn't that quite work? But we do also, I think, reflect on the good moments in the class and like, oh, the students really, they were really enjoying that activity today, or there was lots of really good conversation happening, really natural conversation. So I think it's something that we do a lot. Um, but perhaps not in such a structured way. And so that was what the some of the reflection activities for the teachers in the book were about, was kind of, what are you doing in your practice and what's working and what would you like to tweak as well.
Well, I'm going to be a slight devil's advocate here. I think that's probably true for you, and almost certainly for anybody watching this, because they wouldn't be watching us if they weren't interested in their own CPD. But there's a large number of teachers who come out of class and say, "Oh, that didn't go well, blooming book." or that
Ah,
didn't go well, terrible teenagers, or oh, the grotty class, oh, they're at it again. Woo, woo. There is a percentage, and you know that, of teachers that will seek to blame elsewhere rather than reflect on themselves.
yeah.
So, how would you encourage that type of teacher
Well, I mean, so this is
to
something
to
that,
shift their thinking?
yeah. So when I'm also a cert TESOL tutor as well, and so our reflection form on the cert TESOL is, they think about the positives in the lesson, and then the question, and it's underlined, what aspects of your teaching,
Mm,
or what didn't work quite so well, what aspects of your teaching had an impact,
yeah,
because it's really important, I think, to get teachers out of that mindset early on that, and that's not to say that, you can do everything possible as a teacher and still have a bad lesson. I'm not saying at all that it's always the teacher. Um, but I think it's
no,
important for teachers to not automatically jump to the externals. Um,
yeah,
because it could be that the book, the text in the book, the students just really didn't get on with it. But then what was happening in your planning process?
yeah, exactly.
Like, did you
And how
just kind of go,
flexible
oh,
were
look,
you?
I've got the book. Here we go.
Yeah, and how proactive and reactive were you? How effectively did you read the room? And
Yep.
because again, there's teachers that will stick to the, and also in CELTA courses and stuff, they get too fixated on the lesson plan to move
Hmm.
away from
Hmm.
it.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
yeah. And what about the next one? How much reflection do you personally do on your teaching and perhaps on your life? I mean, I journal. I don't know if you do, it's kind of the same, I don't know, mentality or whatever.
Mm.
How much do you
Um,
do?
so this is where I'm a definite do as I say, not as I do.
Aren't we all?
Because I've done a couple of training sessions on reflective practice and, the benefits and things. But I will be the first to admit it's not something I do consciously, proactively, explicitly in my daily life. I think when I go for my morning walks, quite often my mind will drift to
Yeah.
teaching, as it probably does for most people. I do have a book which I kind of made when I was doing a reflective session, and I filled it with questions. But I don't open it as often as I perhaps could. And that's, building things into your routine and
Yeah.
carving out a time for it in your day, I think, as well.
It's tricky to find the time though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think especially, when you've been at work and you've got to the end of the day and it's like, whew,
Mm.
do I now kind of want to force myself to sit down and reflect? Or would I prefer to, switch off for the evening and then when I'm out for my walk in the morning, kind of go, what went
Do
well?
you think that an experienced teacher would need something like a notebook to write it down, or is that thinking process while you're on your walk an effective substitute? I know my answer to this. I want to know yours.
I mean, I think it's effective in that day to day, but perhaps not so effective in tracking things over a
Mm.
period of time. Um, and so maybe for somebody who was looking to develop further, being much more proactive and writing things down in a much more explicit way and looking back at things and having that something tangible to look back on as well, um, would be beneficial, which I think,
I wonder if
even I
it's
could do
worth.
that.
Sorry, I was just thinking about a teacher. I mean, this teacher was many years ago, and also it was a different context. She used to talk about having pink days and blue days. Pink days meant she was in a good mood, and blue days meant she was in a bad mood. Um, But I was thinking perhaps it might be worth, like if you've got a schedule, like we have a printed out schedule. I mean, it's on document and we print it out basically,
Mhm,
and I write all over mine. I've a lot of teaching notes and what I plan to do on it. Um, I'm just thinking this one. I haven't tried it, but it might work. If you have a bad day, if a class doesn't go as well, like this morning, it didn't go that great, the first lesson this morning, and I spoke to the students. We had a chat in the tea break. Um, mark a little, like a green blob on the schedule or something. And then after you get to, I don't know, three of those, see if there's something in common.
mhm, mhm.
Consider, is it the time of day? Is it, it was the weather? It's every, not to put too fine a point on it, but let's say it's a largely female class. As this happened last year, and like every 4 weeks there was a slightly, and I got to predict, and then you just
Yeah.
kind of went, oh, never mind, I know what the issue is. Um, and then it's easier to see if it's them, me, the materials, the weather. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
I might actually try that myself. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of know what went wrong today, and it wasn't me. It was some major football match last night.
Yeah.
Half the class watched it, and then, you know, they weren't really in a suitable state first thing this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, I
word on
think
words. But
I'm, I know when like generally when I get into the classroom, even though my classroom is this,
mm,
it brightens my mood. But I do
yeah, me too.
recognize that on those days when things don't tend to go so well, I think it is more the energy that I'm bringing or that I haven't
Mm,
quite planned as much as I could have, or, I have just gone, it's going to be a book day. Then we're just going
yeah,
to do this.
I
Um,
don't have book days. It's all super planned, but yeah, but with
yeah.
me, it's for things like, and if any ladies of a certain age watching, they'll know what I mean. When I've slept badly,
Hmm.
um, there is an age at which sleep patterns can get disrupted, and if I've slept badly, and my energy, even if I'm not aware of it, because I've got this great, wonderful walk to work, and so usually when I get to work, I like you, I feel bright and shiny.
Mm,
But there can be a dip.
yeah.
And even if I'm not aware of it in myself, it's harder for me. Like this morning, when these guys sitting not feeling well and sleepy and whatever, and that my energy couldn't quite bring theirs up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that I slept badly last night.
Hmm.
But yeah, again, that's reflecting. But I don't write it down. I mean, I might make little notes now and again. I do
Hmm.
journal though. I write life stuff. Not often. Not as often as I used to. Anyway,
I
another
might.
question for you.
Well, no, my coffee, I'm out of coffee, I'm
Oh,
afraid.
you're
And
out of
so
coffee
we might have to save that question.
for the next
I
time.
might fire
No, it'll
some
work.
questions about
It'll
journaling
work.
to you next time.
No, I can add it on to something another day. I can add it on quite easily. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway, it's quite
happy
nice
coffee
having a
break. Yeah.
coffee and a.
Nice. I feel zinged all of a sudden.
There
Okay,
we
see you again
go.
next week.
See you next week. Have a good one.